All right, here we go. Hit the music. All right, everyone. Good, whatever time of day is when you're watching this broadcast. Uh, I have got to take off this ghost off the front, and here we are. All right, I am doing a very impromptu show tonight. The guest I have scheduled tonight has not been on the internet all day and has not returned my messages. She had an event this weekend, and she may be busy. I don't know. She may have forgotten me. I don't know what happened, but Phoenix Jansen will try to schedule her for another time. Maybe after this little meeting she was supposed to go to in Hot Springs. She's supposed, theoretically, she was headed to, you got an event starting tomorrow, and she was headed actually here to Arkansas. They're not very far from me, Hot Springs. And she may be in Arkansas right here, but I've not been in touch with her all day. So guess what? I can't follow. I can't find a guest in 5 minutes. Can't do it. So here we are. I ran in real quick and thought about doing a pre-record show that's not been seen before, but then I remember this StreamYard does not allow me to do that this close. I would have had to have started it last night, and last night I did not know tonight's guest would not show up. So what we're going to do is we're going. I'm just going to chit chat. We have right now 0 viewers, and if anybody wants to be on the show tonight, I will gladly send you the link. I've got an invite button down here, and I can send you a link via Facebook. You contact me on Facebook. I'll be happy to send you the link, and you can appear on the show if you want to. That's up to you. If you, excuse me, going like this, we had a cat live with us for about 8 days, and she's gone now, but she left us a gift. We now have fleas all over the house. So if you see me bending down and doing this, I probably had a flea jump on my ankles. She did hang around here in the studio a little bit. She liked this chair, and I think she got up under it and dropped a couple of fleas, and we now have fleas. Now I've got to spray the whole house. So lucky bloody me, okay? But enough about my complaining. Now, well, I guess I can talk about myself, although I was not prepared. I have no script. I don't usually follow a script. I have a few questions I'll ask. When I have a guest, I'll ask them specific questions that they already kind of know. Like what they're doing now, what they've been in the past, specific subject we're going to talk about. It's all arranged. Very few impromptu questions from me. So I have no script for me tonight. So sorry about any fan of Phoenix Jansen that tunes into the show. She is not here. So unless she shows up at the last minute, my Facebook is open. So if somebody wants to send me a private message and appear on the show tonight, I'd be more than welcome to send you a friend request. The messenger is open. I don't take phone calls on this, of course. But another problem we have, it is really hot down here. It's still almost 90 degrees here, and this late at night. The system that they have for my internet uh, seems to be sensitive to heat because the hotter we were almost 2 full days without internet last week, and the internet runs slow this time upcoming because all school kids are on the same system, and usually I have a little bit more bandwidth by about 10:30. But with the heat going on all day today, I'm not sure, if I'm going to get speedier internet tonight or not. We've had slow internet all day, so let's hope this show gets out, gets done, at least gets recorded, and this WLFE DB network can pick it up and at least forward it to iHeart and the other podcast, StreamYard, Speaker, and the other podcast channels, networks that WLFE sends all their shows to. And I'd like to thank WLFE TV for tolerating me I'm a little bit eccentric. I'll be 66 years old in a couple of weeks. So I'm kind of stuck in my ways. Uh, what can I say? They're good people. Let me run a little bit over. Let me start a little bit early. They let me do kind of what I want to without being yelled at too much. Anyway, you see my Facebook page. Finger in there, right there, right there. It's going this way, and we go back to the back end, and we'll slowly shove it all the way through, and get rid of it there, and we start over here. Anyway, that's my Facebook page. So if you want to be a guest real quick, come in. You got any questions for me? Bring it on, put you on the show. Anyway, a lot of things I could talk about. People say that I've done some interesting stuff and should be a guest on their show, and a lot of times I am. I do appear in the chat rooms of a lot of shows, and sometimes when invited, I will appear on air of their shows. Miranda at the Ghost Biker show, I've actually been on her show. She's been on my show. I've been in her chat room several times. I have. Sometimes I appear. Oops, got that. Okay. Appear on several other shows. I do a show with Rob on Wednesday nights. Appear in the chat room. I think I appeared on the show for 30 minutes one night. And so I've been around. Most people in the chat rooms, I'll drop in and they'll say, "Hey, Land," because they know me. One reason they know me, I don't discuss politics or anything controversial, except maybe internet controversies. I mean, not internet controversies, paranormal controversies. And nobody's immune to that. Although I wish there was less ego and less, me. That's self-centeredness in the paranormal. That's all part of the human condition. We're not paranormal investigators are not robots, and they're not all sweet, loving people willing to share what they find. I remember when I was in a group that shall go unnamed, and person shall go unnamed. The group split up, and a lot of it was because one person, even when he was under the group flag, refused to allow anybody but himself to review his videos. Theoretically, anything that he picked up should be co-copyright with the group and whoever owns the camera. But he would not allow any members to even look at the videos. He would do it. He would go through his video evidence real quick, and anything he thought was pertinent, he'd post it, and that'd be it. We never see any of the other footage. They kind of sets up where he says where he is or anything, and that's just wrong. It's people that are really hoggish with their stuff. Of course, the opposite edge of that, as I've known people in the past who would go find somebody's video, maybe unused or something, or maybe just 30 seconds pulled out of. He would doctor it to where it looked like his, and if he could download it some way or another, and would put it up on his site, it's like he did it. So there's plenty that goes wrong with the paranormal. The whole orb controversy, which I'm not going to get into. The other things people argue about, and I'm just not going to touch into that, but there is issues there, and a lot of it's based on ego. If you're in the paranormal for your ego, or you're in it for money, or you're in it for fame, you're in the wrong field, and you're hurting the paranormal field. As far as I'm concerned, you just go ahead and leave, because that's the problem with the paranormal. Too many egos, too many blown up heads, too many self-centered people. But enough about that. Let me tell you some of the things that I have done. I've ghost hunted in Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, and of course here in Arkansas. I'm one of the few people who've actually lived in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Illinois for 14 and a half years, and now I've been in Arkansas for over 6. So that's moving everything around quite a bit. And Arkansas is where I'm staying. The taxes are good, and or should I say, not good. Good for me, put it that way, and a lot cheaper in Illinois. So we're here to stay. We found our vacation home, and we're staying. We're set down roots here, and we're done. But I am too old, too cranky to start loading a moving truck and moving. Anyway, about the paranormal. In Georgia, at the Confederate Naval Museum, yes, it's haunted. Yes, I've been there. If you get a chance to go to Columbus, Georgia, you got Westville you can go see, and it's not very far from the Confederate Naval Museum. In fact, if you walk the Riverwalk Trail, you can go from Westville, and it's just across from the Infantry Museum at Fort Benning, because the road divides Columbus and Fort Benning. You can be one in the Riverwalk there and walk about 2/3 the length. That was about 10 miles. If you wanted to go on a 7-8 mile hike, and you could walk into the Confederate Naval Museum. If it's baseball season, you can always catch a baseball game at Golden Park. And the trail ends with a big Columbus statue, and then goes on to right in the center downtown. So that's a very pleasant walk. You're right there by the river. It's kind of cooler on a warm day. You're in shade a lot. And of course, it goes right through the golf course on south end of town, too, as that is right there with Westville and the Infantry Museum. Anyway, I walked in there before I left Columbus, and they have a little film, like all museums have, of where you can actually see on film, video, what they're about. And they were showing both the ships in there, what's left of them after they were burned, keep the Union from obtaining 2 warships. You can only see the keel, or like I said, what's left of it. And the little video shows what happens when an ironclad has attacked. Usually below the waterline, they're wood-sided. If you kind of make what looks like a big flat-bladed shovel, put some explosives on there, tie it down, set your fuse, and then go up to the ironclad and set your little shovel up against the wooden hull underwater, she's gone. She is going to sink quickly. And this video, excuse me, sweet tea, and showed the sinking of the ironclad. And I was watching this, and but maybe a third of the way through, somebody else came in, sat down. I said, okay, that's no big deal. Didn't sit down close to me at all. I barely noticed it. And I watched the end of the video. Of course, it got as far, to the spot as on a loop. I saw where I'd already seen the whole thing and was repeating. So I got up and left. The other person was still there. I looked, kind of nodded, and exited. I noticed the person was kind of grungy looking, but I thought maybe it's a homeless person. Somebody's been working out in the yard, just decided to come by here or something. Didn't think too much about it. Walked out and walked around the ships. And or should I say, since they're built for river boats, but I think one was actually built for the ocean. So maybe a boat and a ship, technically. And was about, the lady said that we're not going to be open very long. And I said, just let me know when you're closing. And I was looking around different items. I was working on getting done. When I saw one of them lock the door, I said, remember, I'm here. And she said, that's all right. We just don't want anybody else coming in the last 15 minutes that we're open. Now you can feel free. We're actually open for you for the next 15 minutes. Just let us know when you're ready to leave. So I finished what I was doing and walked in there and said, "Okay, I'm done." And she walked me to the door and was letting me out. And I said, "Wait a minute, you got one other person here." Because I was watching the film, someone else came in and sat down. She said, "There was nobody here when you walked in. There nobody walked in while you were here. And we walked around and there's nobody in this building but the three of us and you. That's it." I said, "I saw a guy." She said, "The three of us are women. That's it. We're three females in here." And I said, "Wait a minute. There was a guy. No, there was no guy. We ain't had a guy here all day." Okay. So I just walked out and went home. What I saw was apparently a full body apparition I saw with my naked eyes, sat down, and was watching that film with me. And that was an amazing little thing. That happened almost. Wait a minute. I was there in June or July, so that was right at 21 years ago to the day. And there's a little paranormal group that has investigated that place several times. So if you want to go there, look up the paranormal in the Columbus, Phoenix City area, Columbus, Georgia, Phoenix City, Alabama area. I think they were based out of Phoenix City. And go down there, you can talk to a paranormal group and ask them what they've seen there. And they'll tell you that the place is quite a bit haunted. And there have been, besides me, people who have seen sailors of boats down there. There was nobody killed on either one of the boats because they were built and they never did a whole lot. Never got into a fight until the Union forces came in from Alabama and were going to cross the bridge that night, and they burned the boats just to keep them from falling in Union hands. But so who's haunting you? I don't know. Somebody who liked the ships. Maybe he's the one that set them on fire. I do not know. It would be interesting to have gone in there and use a ghost box and ask questions. Got to Chicago, and of course, investigated many places up there. One of them, including Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Now you will hear a little noise, like it just come on. That is the AC. If I turn the AC completely off, it will very quickly get to be well over 80 degrees, and that's not good for me. It's not good for my computer. So to keep us both cooler, I'm sorry you have to put up with a little buzz. I got the fan turned down to the lowest speed. And you got to set on econ, but when it kicks on, and it actually feels quite good. Anyway, I've investigated Bachelor's Grove Cemetery many times. I actually spent an entire night there. I got dropped off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and got picked up at 8 o'clock the next morning. I've heard some people say, "Well, I spent the whole night there." Okay. What time did you get there? What time did you leave? I got there about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, stayed about 2. That's 11 o'clock to 2. Even if you stay till 3, it's not all night. I watch the sun go down and I watch the sun come back up. And I didn't really see all that much because the good spirits always disappeared. They came, and if they're there during the day, they are gone at dusk. Because that's when the evil stuff starts coming out. That's when the locals who've used it for just an object of manhood used to come in there and deface the cemetery, kick the headstones over. And it's just been a rite of passage, just tradition there. Fathers did it, the grandfathers did it, and they come in there and do it. I don't know why this makes you a man. I don't know why kicking over a 200-pound stone to make somebody pick a 200 stone back up. It's harder to do than kicking it over. I don't know why they do that, but they do. Anyway, my research down there, I was asleep one afternoon by myself. There was nobody in the cemetery with me. I was sitting in a chair under a shade tree, kind of nodding off, and the K2 meter I have has got a temperature reader on it. It doesn't tell you the temperature, but it tells you if it changes, it sends a tone out, if it gets hotter or colder. And it started going off really loud. And I just had it right beside my head, so I started looking at it. And it would it would go for a while, sound off for a while, and then go dead. It'd sound off for a while and go dead. So that's interesting. So I came back the next day. Same thing happened. Came back a day or two later, same thing happened. So I got to tracing it down and doing some research. And there was an interesting grave there that I'd already found using divining rods. And it was the second largest plot in the cemetery in Bachelor's Grove, the Patrick plot. After some research at the Humphrey house, I found that John and Amelia Humphrey, married in 1863, had a child that died in 1865 at 11 months, 4 days old. This in Orland Park, they had bought a funeral plot, but the cemetery was not yet being that John Humphrey served as the first mayor and created the town of Orland Park. The cemetery was not ready for burial until 1869. Libby May Humphrey died in 1865 in the Patrick plot in Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. And I finally get in there. I was using an EchoVox, and using the EchoVox, I tried to talk to her. It took a while. It took several sessions over several days, but I finally got Libby May where she would talk. And it so happened that Amelia was there. And both of them would talk, and it turned out that there was Libby May trying to contact me, and she was using my meter as a play toy. The only way, and this came from the manufacturer, because I went straight to them, they said the only way, excuse me, for it to sound off loud like that is to touch the probe. I've had it in a refrigerator, stuck it in there, and it lets a very light tone. You barely hear it. I've had it at another location where cool air, put it under the vent, on a table under the AC vent, and when the AC come on, it would do a low, very high frequency, but very low tone that I could not really hear. Other people could hear it. It was out of my range of hearing. To make it sound like you did at Bachelor's Grove, you had to physically put your fingers on them. You had to beep, 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 like that. And it got to where she was playing tunes on it. She would almost touch it like that, but rapidly, to make almost a musical tone. It sounded like music, or somebody was trying to type out an SOS on a telegraph. And that's if that was her, it was Libby May. The reason the white lady in Bachelor's Grove, I said, Amelia, are you that white lady that used to sit on the stone here, pointing to the stone? She said, yes. They called me. That's when Dale Kazmaryk's group, Judy Huff, took the picture. It's the best ghost picture around. If you look up ghost picture on Google, it's the first thing you see. And that's why she was there. I witnessed a portal one day from across Bachelor's Grove open up. There's just blowing wind in one location. And I saw something walking out of it. And the wind completely died down at that spot. Second time, I was sitting there with a friend who had a dog. Dogs can pick up on this. The dog looking right down the fence line had her ears perked up. I mean, the owner of the dog said, she sees something. I said, yes, something's coming. And right at dusk, because when this usually happens, right before dusk, we saw a wind coming up the fence. There was no limbs blowing above or to either side of the fence, but the vines and small trees that had grown up inside the fence were blowing like there was a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing. But only one little spot. It came rolling up the fence, and we're talking a couple of 100 feet. Got right to almost to where we were, stopped, and I saw a spirit walking out of the wind. So yes, I've sat there and twice watched Amelia coming out of a portal. Because I asked her, are you coming out of a portal? You get here by portal? She said yes. So I just walk over from her. I said hello. She nodded and walked over to the grave and disappeared. She was coming there every night to get the spirit of her firstborn child and take her away from the evil that was Baxter's Grove. That's it. There's not demonic. There's nothing really scary about it. It's the love of a mother for a child was the haunting of Baxter's Grove. And now the Forest Preserve has really cracked down on the nighttime. They got cameras up. They don't say if the cameras are working or not. Some nights they are, some nights they aren't. But they take care of the place now. They keep it all cut down so you can't hide in there. Before, with it all grown up, where certain people liked because it looked more haunted, you could have had a regiment of Marines in there in camo walk up to the gate and you wouldn't see a single Marine. It was that grown up. They cut it down. In fact, they cut all the little flower bulbs that were planted in there and keep all that cut down. So there is really no place to hide in that cemetery. And they've really cut back. They don't let you, if you get caught by there with a paint can, they will press charges. They don't allow you back there with any kind of working tools. And a lot of people that were supposed to want to do caretake the place or repair it have kind of walked away from it. Is one thing interesting about Baxter's Grove, it creates an ownership feeling. The more you go there, the more you want to go there, and you want to own it. Although the county owns it, it's surrounded completely on all four sides by Forest Preserve land. So if you bought the cemetery, you'd still have to buy rights from the Forest Preserve. You better be ready to spend millions of dollars to the county and then to the Forest Preserve to have rights. So you can at least have a way in and out. They've got to say you some rights. They can't tell you that if you own the place, you can't come there at night, or you got to be out at dusk or at sunset. And that's what the situation you'd be in your own property. You'd still be on their schedule. But if you bought rights to that path, then you could, they don't really care. You could live in there if you want to. It's your property. But anyway, oops, I had a visitor for a second. That's the way that goes. Let me see what's on Facebook. Is anybody? Nope, nobody sent me a message. If you want to be on, be on. Be glad to send you a link. Boy, my internet is really slow in this heat. Good gracious alive. At least Facebook finally loaded. But back about Baxter's Grove. Due to the fact they kept it cut down and kept the people from out there, the spirits have calmed down a lot. And I told Amelia that her and Libby May and two other kids, brother and sister of Libby May, that died early in their lives, but after 1870, they're born in Orland Park Cemetery with their father and mother. I'll get back to that in a second. But I told them to go see the world. I said, you kind of lived an unhappy life, and not a loving marriage. Go see the world. Go see New York. Go see Washington. Go to Florida. Go to California. Go to Europe. Go have fun. You go anywhere you want to. And so far, the only person that I know of that's gotten Amelia to answer is Dale Kaczmarek. Now, whether if you or anybody you know can go in there and call them Amelia Humphrey's name, she might answer you, but she might not. So during the daytime, there's not much spirits going on. You still got the Union soldier who died of old age. He didn't die in the war. He died in the 1890s. He's buried in there. Sometimes he were in Iraq. Sometimes around the Holman grave. You can get some of them to answer. Try to brush up on your German, because a lot of time on the ghost box they will speak to you in English and German. So you don't know what you're going to get, right? Talking to the Holman grave, which is right there at the entrance on your left. A lot of people have said about the pond that Al Capone people put out a rock to people and dumped them in the pond. The pond averages about 5 feet. If it's in kind of the flood season, you had a lot of rain, it might have 6 feet. But it averages about 5.5 feet. Which means that somebody even as tall as I am could stand out there in the pond and walk across it to their feet on the bottom. And that's been done before. So if you're burying a body for Al Capone, you are not going to take them to a pool of water that is 5.5 feet deep. That is way, way, way too easy to pull the body out. More than likely, they were out at, I believe, Maple Lake, which is not too far from the Irish Legend, which is owned by the Capones, and that was a whorehouse, and it was also a speakeasy. So that's more than likely a place where they would have gotten rid of people. It's the theory that when the basement was paved, the contractor who was building Willowbrook Ballroom across the street came in there and laid the concrete. He says it looked like there was 2 diggings that had been filled in that were about the size of a grave. So are people buried under the basement floor of the Irish Legend? Good question. You'd have to go in there and get some radar strong enough that would go through the concrete and see if the ground had been disturbed throughout history. So you'd have to do that, and that's a working place, and they're probably not going to put up with that nonsense, even though they occasionally let you go in there and investigate. Back to Bachelor's Grove. I don't believe that Al Capone threw his bodies there. Like I said, I think it's Maple Lake because it's just down from the Irish Legend, and it is 40 to 50 feet deep in places, and that's a much better place to stow a body. And it's big enough to where they would have to get some divers to look at all that muck down there, and they would never find a body down in there. And even with the hooks that only work in shallower water, would not work in that. It's got 50 feet of hook. That doesn't work. So that would be hard to find unless they just did not put a rock in the body and it floated to the surface eventually. So I think that's debunked. Also, the farmer with the runaway horse that drowned in the pond. There was, in that immediate area, there wasn't that much agriculture going on around that lake and the pond, and the fact that most of the residences were, at least their foundation, especially ones that are left, you can see it right there on the ground. They got rock from a big rock that was behind the cemetery where the pond is now, is man-made. The residences there that moved into the area wanted their basement done, of course, in rock, solid foundation. They chipped away that rock right there, and the hole they left became a pond by Bachelor's Grove. And there was the pond was may have been inches deep, it may have been a foot or two deep, and may not have been full of water at all. They were still using it as a rock quarry. So it's doubtful that a horse pulling a plow and the farmer behind it drowned in that lake. A horse could just stand up. A man over much over 5 foot tall could stand up. And back then, it was probably a man much over 4 feet could stand up in the water if there was water in it back then. It was in their best interest to keep the quarry drained, not let the creek that's there flood the rock until it was not being used anymore, because they were all asked to move, or until the settlement failed, which it did. So that's some of the history of Bachelor's Grove. If you want to know more about Bachelor's Grove, there is a site. I'm not sure it's being added to anymore. I'll get back to that in a second. But the path to bachelorsgrove.com can be found. You look for it and find it. .com or .org. But just look up the path to Bachelor's Grove, and you'll be able to find it. There is there is a channel on YouTube. It has not been updated in over a year, but they have a lot of the history and information on Bachelor's Grove at the path to Bachelor's Grove. Now, back to the ownership thing. You have several paranormal investigators in the Chicago area who fight tooth and nail, wanting to be the guide to bring tours in it, because that's money. So there's a lot of money trying to fight over who should be the guide, and they actually do tell on each other. If they see a tour group going in, which they're not allowing anymore because of this bickering, they'll tell on each other. So I'm glad I moved away. I'm glad I got out of it. I will give impromptu tours to people who are just coming in. Wouldn't charge them a dime. Was never offered a dime. But that's just pathetic. One of the people is known for climbing a tree and belittling the tour, talking back to the tour. And that's not true. That's not true. You left something out. And I'm in front of the tour, and that's unprofessional. It makes an adult look like a child. And you know who you are. You know who you're talking about. Yeah, it's a very childish thing. Several other people go there, and their big dream is to win the lottery and buy the place. Even if they won $1 billion, and if it costs them $1 billion to buy it, they'd buy it. An abandoned cemetery that you would struggle to charge admission to, and if you spent $1 million on the cemetery, you'd never get your money out of it, unless you were charging $25 a head to walk through it, and nobody'd go in there for that. Especially not anymore. The place is barely haunted anymore. You're not going to get results there. If anybody wants to do a paranormal trip, I will warn you, I've only seen a meter, excluding mine with a temperature probe, but a meter where you want flashing lights on a K2, regular K2, or a millimeter. I've seen one K2 flash once. I've seen one millimeter flash once. As many times as I've been in there. 2 meter reactions in all my visits. All the hours upon hours, triple digit hours. That's been well over 100 hours in that place. I know it as well as anybody. But I've only seen 2 meters react once each, different times, different days, and different years. And it was only a flash. You would have had to have been looking at the meter when the lights blinked. It was just that quick. And it never happened again, to my knowledge. Somebody else may have seen a meter go off once, but I only saw, in all the hours I was there, I only saw it twice. Once on a K2, once on a mil. I've seen some of the naturals. I've seen any kind of meter you want to go in there, and they got nothing. Some people say, well, it can't be haunted because you got 2 cell towers a quarter of a mile. Yes, you do. But it seems to me that these cell towers would set off a male or K2 or some of your other meters. They might even interfere with a REM pod, make you think there's something there, picking up some of the microwaves. I've never seen a REM pod go off in there. So what the towers should be interfering with in creating false positives on doesn't happen. And that's weird, especially for a haunted location. If you want to try to get some action in there, you can go in there with the ghost box and you can ask for some of the people. Amelia may come to talk to you, but she may be busy halfway across the planet because her and Libby May are living large now, and we're not having fun. Now, if you want to see the rest of the Humphrey family, Orland Park Cemetery, you got John Humphrey, the father, has his first wife on one side, his second wife on the other, and the kids the two of them bore him are sitting beside their mothers on the outside from John, which creates a problem. Can you imagine on the other side? There he is sitting there on the other side of him from his first wife is the second wife, who was hired as a secretary for him, as John Humphrey was a state senator, and in the 1880s, up until about 1890, he was the most powerful man in Cook County outside of the city of Chicago. He tried to stop the 93 Columbian Exposition, which was, of course, the World's Fair, which, by the way, is one of the stars in the Chicago flag. They got one each for the 2 times that the World's Fair was there. The Great Fire is 3, and I can't remember what the 4th one out off the top of my head. But anyway, that was also where H.H. Holmes had his murder castle. That's where that supposedly is alleged. Very little of this can be proved. That he had gas and other death things. He had acid in the basement. He was making a lot of money selling skeletons to science halls who needed it for their demonstrations, the teaching of doctors, their anatomy classes, and across the United States, a lot of the real skeletons that you see on television, or either new movies or old movies, or displayed in a classroom, a lot of them were supplied by H.H. Holmes. So were they people that had the Columbian Expedition that he killed? Unknown. He was a con man. He committed fraud so many times for life insurance that the number has been lost to time, and it's unbelievable. Anyway, it's hard to comprehend the number of frauds he did with life insurance, and that's where he got his money: skeletons and life insurance fraud. And H.H. Holmes was on the other side, and Dad got to encourage him to get out of purgatory. And that's on me anyway. But that's another part I don't talk too much about. But another spot in Chicago that I investigated many times was, of course, Ethel's Party. Ethel's Party was a bar. Strange name. There was a lady named Ethel. She had a party, and that's where the name stuck. Anyway, you had a lot of hauntings there. The longtime employees did not want to go into the basement. When they put the modern drink dispenser, and if you go into a modern bar, the girl has a drink gun behind her. It doesn't dispense alcohol, but it's a mixer gun. It's got anywhere from 3. Some of the nights I've seen them with 20 buttons for different ones. I think this particular one had 10 or 12, where she could just punch a button: 7-Up, Coke, seltzer water, whatever. And of course, that had to be stored down in the basement. For a long time, when he had to go down there and the drink man, what everybody called him, when the person representing the mixers, the drinks, not again the non-alcoholic part, the Coke man, the Pepsi man, 7-Up man. When they would go down there, a lot of them would not go in that basement alone. They would require somebody else to go with them because it was creepy down there. Mainly because that's where the autopsy room was, and it was where the embalming, I said autopsy, embalming room was, and they drained the body fluids into the sewer. And this pipe is still there to this day, although they tried to do some modernization. The building is empty, probably for sale if you want to go buy it. Nice place. I mean, you could open up a bar downstairs and live in the. It's a 3-story building. You could live on 2 floors. If you wanted to, install an elevator where you can get a party upstairs. Get you another bar. Seal the roof up tight. Then put you a little deck out there and call it the party deck. A few umbrellas, 2 chairs. Have a party deck. Just close it down at say dusk or shortly after. During the summer and during the winter, during the spring and summer, just keep it open till midnight. Then everybody's got to go downstairs. But anyway, you had a haunting there. It was several bartenders and customers that seen a floating shadow figure going up overhead. And if you start going back to the bathrooms on the left-hand side, you walk past the bar, or past the entry where the bartender can get into the back, and meters just go crazy, and that's where the shadow figure appeared, and that's where a lot of people were standing. A lot of bartenders had seen a man standing at that end. The reason they may have seen something is because the breakers for the entire building are right there, and if you have leaks, all that energy they're sending out can make you see things if you're there for too long. But 2, that's also how spirits feed. They find some leaky wiring and they hang around the leaky wiring and can recharge themselves. That is my theory. That's where a lot of ghosts go. They don't realize this, and they fade away, lose all their energy, and basically they can't do anything. Others realize that any kind of power usage, use it as like the artificial generators that everybody builds and puts on sites. They don't have to have that if the lines are leaking or hanging around a transformer. Oh my gosh, you can just get all kinds of energy there. A human can feel it, the energy there. But that's what was going on. Now, back in the ladies' room, we have a good orb. Now, orbs are usually still cameras and caused by the flash. About 99% of them are flash caused. It's dust, water vapor, dust, bugs. But on video, and using IR light, there was only one thing coming out. It came out of the wall, stopped about midway across the door in the ladies' room, in the stall, and then came right to the camera's lens and disappeared. And it had a tail, but there was no obvious wings. The closer it got, you could tell. Usually with a bug, the closer it gets, you can see the wings fluttering. You say, okay, that is a housefly, mosquito, whatever. This one was just an elongated little beam of light that came in the camera and absolutely disappeared. It never came into focus. Call it paranormal, call it not, call it a bug, but there were no legs, there were no wings. And it didn't move like a bug. I don't know why a bug would fly right into the camera lens. But the person mainly doing the haunting was Bruno Rodi, and he was one of 2 bomb men for Al Capone. Al Capone wanted a bomb set somewhere. Bruno Rodi set it up. Bruno Rodi, before Al Capone got there, ran the 26th Street gang. And he ran his money through extortion. He'd find a rich man's house, set a bomb outside of it, and then call him up and said, look, there's a bomb outside your house. If you call the police, I'll blow up your house. Pay me X amount of money. And this one time he said $40,000. And tell me in the 1820, early 1820s, $40,000 was real money. They caught him, put him in jail. He was out. Al Capone came to town. He took over the 26th Street gang. He made Bruno one of his closer friends and bomb manufacturers. He died in 1956, June 1956, which was a matter of 2 to 3 weeks before I was born. Bruno's spirit was locked into the downstairs in the old ice room. Remember, no air conditioning back then. Because Ethel's party was a mortuary for over 90 years. So they had the original cold room, which was later brought up to date with refrigeration. But it was made to have ice in to keep the bodies cold. And he was stuck in that room. And nobody walked in that room. Even the hardcore bartenders. And I'm talking about a lady who bragged she never lost a fight, even against guys. She would not back off of a guy if there was an issue. And she said she never lost a fight. Interesting brag, but she would not walk in that room. She'd walk down with the other guy. She did not want to go in that basement by herself, and she would not walk in that room with somebody. I stayed in that room a lot by myself, a lot of it by myself, because nobody stayed in there with me. I've had people said, hang out with me down here. You're liable to see something and hear something. And this stay for 2 or 3 minutes. It is too heavy down here. I cannot stand it and leave. And I got Bruno Rodi to knock my hat off. I was down there with a group one night. Finally found somebody to stay in the room with me. And then he showed what people didn't want to stay in there, because I had a K2, and I felt him enter me from behind. He entered me, passed right through me. I had the K2 meter in front of me. As he walked through my hand and arm and the K2 meter, it went off. He got in a circle. We were standing in a circle. He got into the circle. It stopped going off. And then the guy directly across from me, I could see his feet in the camera. I do have this on video. And he was pushed backwards and had to catch himself, so you'd see where he was actually shoved. So we thought that was amazing, and I got that on video, like I say. I've got to work on putting those things up, but I've been hesitant because nobody will believe the stuff that I've got. And I hesitate. Put it up on YouTube because, quite frankly, people would say this is fake, this is offensive, and YouTube wouldn't remove it. So I'm still not sure about putting those videos up on YouTube, because people have the crab syndrome, I guess. Crab syndrome is when you have 8-10 crabs in a big wash tub, and they finally figure out they climb on top of each other, somebody can get out, and they just form a crab ladder. But when the crabs down at the bottom, they're not part of the ladder. See that one crab about to crawl out of that wash tub, the crab, all of a sudden the crab from the bottom reach out and grab the legs of the one crawling out, about to crawl out, and pull them back down. So that goes on YouTube a lot. Is people just, I don't have what you have, so you're not going to have it either. So they just tear you down. But anyway, saw that, and I was working with a psychic, and we finally got him out. He was being a religious man. We forgave him for anything he did with us, and said that Jesus Christ would forgive him for his sins if he'd ask him. And we asked him if he would forgive Bruno. And after about 30 minutes of this, we got Bruno where he could leave. And he's out seeing the world now. And it's a much happier spirit. If you tried to contact him, you never know where you can pick him up. He doesn't hang around there anymore because that's an empty building. There's no way to get energy. I don't even think the power's in place. They winterized it. They said it's for sale, but they're not really trying hard. I have no idea what's going on with that building. But if you want to, it used to be haunted. It's not haunted anymore because Bruno was holding over 20 spirits in the place, so he wouldn't be alone. One of them was a young girl whose family, the Dan Ryan Interstate, runs a few hundred feet outside of the front door of the bar. The exit's right there in front of the bar, so you can get down on the Dan Ryan the Interstate. It's about 4 lanes each way. And there was a massive wreck down there, and the entire family was wiped out. The little girl was, for some reason, got away from the others somehow. Maybe died first, maybe died last. I don't know if she got lost from her family. And she popped in the first place she could see that there were people. And she got stuck in that bar. And Bruno Rota kept her there. He has since released all the spirits and moved them on. But you still not had anybody give me a message. Oh, well, tonight would have been the time if somebody wanted to come in and talk to me, ask some questions. I'd be glad to answer them. I put some out up in the paranormal, doesn't it? Of course, I'm not sure what to say about people who just don't join a live show when invited. Anyway, Bruno is out and about, and the 20-some-odd spirits that he was called captive there got released and went to their proper places. So I did that because I didn't feel right about having basically an open-end case of what's going on here. So now that building is not haunted. And now somebody can open up a business there and not worry about it. Now, if you go in there starting a whole bunch of paranormal stuff and start screaming for people to come in, you might get somebody back in there. But the spirits that were in there for years, decades, are gone. Now, another place that I went to, and what time is it? 58. We'll go a little bit further. Going to run some promos at halftime. Was, of course, the Camp Douglas. I did a whole investigation. I did a wild investigation down there. We had a writer of the book To Die in Chicago, which is the book on Camp Douglas. He did a slideshow on location. First time he's ever done a slideshow outside. First time he ever even thought about doing a slideshow on Camp Douglas, actually inside of where Camp Douglas was. And we were about 100 or so feet from where they'd actually dug, done some archaeological, that's a hard word for me to say, work, and found remains that was dug up at the headquarters of Camp Douglas. And one wonder about Camp Douglas, about maybe 100 yards, 125 yards from that area, you can go to another little park that's there that contains a little bit of a wall of Stephen Douglas's old home. He wanted to be buried in that old home, and what happened, he built a crypt and was put in there, and he's still there. Even though it's not in the Douglas family anymore, city-owned park. But you can go in there during the summer, June, July, and August, and see a little bit of history of Stephen Douglas, walk around nice flower, beautiful plants. And it's all around the tomb of Stephen Douglas. They will actually open up the tomb during the summer, and you can walk in and touch the sarcophagus of Stephen Douglas. So we did that early in the day. At night, we sat there and investigated till dawn. What we got was a woman's voice that had a Sutter store. They're from 1861 through about half of 1863 before they ran her off for good. But she sold, tobacco, a little bit of food, But there are things every prisoner needed. Except they wanted tobacco, they wanted personal hygiene products, things like this. And of course, she's making a pretty penny at them. She'd buy them in Chicago for one price and sell them out there for almost double. But she did the service until they wanted to punish the prisoners worse, because they'd heard about what happens down south in Andersonville. So they wanted to punish the Confederate prisoners. So they intentionally took their meat away from them and fresh vegetables. So they just gave some pickled pig's feet, a hunk of fat, and no fruit, no fresh vegetables. And stopped her from selling anything like that. And of course, the whole crew there came down with scurvy. And there was tuberculosis there. They had several outbreaks of various diseases. They had a hospital there where they keep the people, but the windows were wide open. And the University of Chicago was right next door. The building's just a few feet apart. People started to get sick in the university and got tired of the smell coming from the hospital where people were just dying left and right. And they had to close down the school. It was about a decade later before the University of Chicago went about a half mile away and started over with their university and became the superpower University of Chicago that is today, which still is. And yes, that's the school where President Obama and his wife taught. And it's an Ivy League type education, right there in Chicago. And he got his start right there at Camp Douglas. They buried the people in City Cemetery, and they didn't keep track of really the numbers. The Confederates that were there didn't keep really good records. Like Andersonville, they knew who everybody was. The Union Army prisoners were much more organized, and they kept records of who died and where they were, so they could go ahead and fill the history of Andersonville. Great place to visit if you go down to Georgia. But at Camp Douglas, they were not so picky on the filing systems. They either were not allowed to, or just didn't have the wherewithal to do it. So you don't know who is buried there. They got 4,300 some odd names. But when City Cemetery in 1868, they contacted everybody buried there and said, come get your loved one at your expense and move into a cemetery, because we got to move this thing. City Cemetery is right on the lake. Nice view. But every time there was a big storm, a lot of rain and wind coming from lake to land, it blew the lake into the cemetery. And dozens of coffins would float out of the cemetery and end up around the intakes where the water intakes were. And back then there was no plant that would filter this thing. They didn't put a filter on that thing till 80s, 70s and 80s. So yeah, even in Al Capone's time, in the 20s and 30s, when he took a bath in Chicago, you usually had a couple of small fish that got scooped up into the pipes swimming in the bathtub with you when you took a bath. If we can imagine that, that would be horrible. That my wife would be screaming so hard. She looked down the water where she was taking a bath, and fish were nipping at her. That wouldn't last very long. But that's what Chicago had to know, especially in the late 1800s, or middle 1800s. The water just came right out of the lake. And here there was some coffins that had been buried 6 months earlier, a year earlier, 10 years earlier, floating around the water intakes. Needless to say, that wasn't very healthy. Of course, they had to eventually move that further and further out because of high algae and biological stuff was in the water intakes, and that's why they eventually reversed the Chicago River, where instead of flowing into the lake, it flows out of the lake. And they had to put doors up so it wouldn't completely drain the lake. That's another story about the history of Chicago. At Camp Douglas, we got Dale Kaczmarek was there, and he got a unit. He had heard in the presentation uh, by the author of the the book I was talking about, To Die in Chicago, George Levy, by the way. You can look it up. To Die in Chicago by George Levy. I believe it's still available from Amazon. But he heard one of the units of soldiers that were there guarding the place, and he heard one person name the unit. And he looked up the number, and indeed it was the name of the unit, the number of the unit that was guarding Camp Douglas. And so we got the lady who was running the Sutter store to talk a little bit. We got some people hanging around several trigger objects over there. Oh, and by the way, did I say where they were buried? Oakwood Cemetery. It's where the bodies were moved to when they started closing out City Cemetery. Trouble is, they only had 4,300 names. It was plus change, 4,300 and change names. But they started counting the bodies. They moved to Oakwood Cemetery. There were 6,000 bodies. They thought they had a little hill there, and they thought they'd put 4,000 graves there and be done with it. But what they did, they dug a trench about 50 feet apart, diameter. Wait a minute, no, it's longer than that. 75 yards across. But there's a circular trench. Buried the bodies shoulder to shoulder, side by side in a circular trench. There were still bodies coming in. So they covered those up. Dug another trench about 4 feet outside the first one. Went all the way around in a circle, filled that up, and covered the bodies up. Then had to go another 3 or 4 feet, dig another trench, and filled it up before the bodies stopped coming from City Cemetery. The wives of the Confederacy, daughters of the Confederacy, put a huge memorial up there using Georgia granite. So you can go into Oakwood Cemetery before I think they close at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you can go there and go to the back of its front side. Just go to if you go in the gate, take a right and go kind of close to the wall, because it's not too far from the wall, toward the Jewish cemetery section. And you can find where those Confederates are buried in Chicago. Also, it's got a lot of historical people in there. You've got a mob figure who they're not sure who killed him, but he interacted with Al Capone. Some people say that Al Capone killed him. You've also got the most corrupt mayor of Chicago in their history. He's also buried there. 2 former Major League commissioners are buried in the cemetery. And you will have, I'm not sure if he's died yet, a U.S. senator buried there. And I think there may be another senator or Congress people buried in that cemetery. A lot to look at, big cemetery. If you like walking through cemeteries, you're in the paranormal, go see it. All right, for right now, we're going to do our little advertising. Okay. First, we're going to do the horror. This is the Houston Horror Film Fest. It is July 22nd through the 24th. If you're into horror, go see it. That is it's a good price. But if you're into horror, go there if you're in the Houston area. Now, the New Jersey Paranormal, that is also in July. And it's a one-day thing, July 23rd, about the same time. In fact, it is the same weekend. But that one only lasts one day. It's the 8th Annual New Jersey Parunity Expo. Go see it and enjoy yourself. That's a big lineup. I hope Chip Coffee can make this one. He's had some medical issues. So I hope he's there, because I've never met the man, but I sure hope he's doing better than he was. He was quite ill and had to miss at least one appearance. They're probably going to do that. Now, oops, I got one more. Non-Com 2. And this is way up in September. I guess I better get used to talking about this one. This is another Paracon non-com. It's September 23rd through the 25th this fall. So if you're in it, go get hold of them for details. You can try to blow this up and see. It says free to attend, free to set up. Sounds like a deal to me. Now we have one more sponsor, and that's the Gypsy Soul Fair. Now, that was related directly to tonight's guest, Phoenix Jansen. She is going to be appearing at the Gypsy Soul Fair this weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, 25th and 26th. Have a little video here from one of the hosts, so let me put her on.
Hi, I'm Shanna with the Gypsy Soul Holistic Fair, and we're having our annual event in Hot Springs, Arkansas, June 25th and 26th. Doors open from 10 to 5 each day at the Hot Springs Convention Center. We'll have over 60 vendors offering aura photos, palm readings, tea leaf readings, astrology, numerology, Reiki, crystals, jewelry, metaphysical supplies, and so much more. Free lectures with admission, $6 cash or $8 credit card. Come see us in other places too, in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. All details are on gypsysoulfair.com.
Okay, gypsysoulfair.com. Go see it. They're at the Haunted Hotel there in Hot Springs. I may very well be there next year. We're going to have to see about that. I could not appear this year. I have got tendonitis in my back, and my wife just had back surgery. She had 3, 4, and 5, and a rolled back fused. I could not leave her home alone just yet. She drops her pencil. I got to bend over, pick it up, because she'll never be able to bend down all the way to the floor again. So I had to stay home and take care of her. Next year, I may very well be appearing. Now, Phoenix Jansen, our supposed scheduled guest tonight, could not show up. She is supposed to be there. Hadn't got any contact with her in a while. She is supposed to be there at the Gypsy Fair, Gypsy Soul Fair this weekend. Now back to what we were talking about. I never did do an intro, did I?
Warning, the following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers and or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Southern Fried Paranormal with Len Dorman featuring Bones. Catch us on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, Stream, and everywhere else you catch your podcasts. And of course, WLFE-DB.com. Now, from the backwoods of southeast Arkansas, right beside the Bayou Bartholomew, the longest bayou on the planet, broadcasting from downtown metropolitan Cane Creek Township, here is your host, Len Dorman.
And good evening. We're here for our second amount of time, although it's a little bit late. It's 1:14 into our show, and it's supposed to do a 2-hour show. I probably will not do that. I've talked about myself tonight. I do not like talking about myself. I'm a bit hoarse. By the way, this past weekend, I wet my whistle a little bit. We had a cat visiting us for about 8 days, and left its fleas all over the place, of course. We no longer have the cat. We were temporary. And we had that upset. And then we had to clean the house up, not just because the cat was gone, but we had to clean it up because we had an out-of-town guest from Switzerland come in for 3 days. Well, actually 2 nights, 3 days. And he just left yesterday morning, right at noon. And so I haven't had time to really spend any time with the show. Last week we had no internet here at all. The week before, I believe I put up a never seen before, but a recorded show, which I will do every once in a while. If a guest cannot be here on Thursday night, I will record them and then show the show Thursday. It would not be a live show or live on tape, but it's a never before seen show. I've still got 2 hours of shows. Next week, Greg Koss has agreed to come back and talk about some investigations he has done this year. Now, the next week, I may go ahead and schedule the never seen before shows because, being honest, in the first weekend of July, first Thursday in July. Mainly because Sunday is my birthday. So let's see, for the 30th, June has only 30 days. And of course, after my next show, Greg Koss, my birthday is that Sunday. So that week after, I may go ahead and schedule those 2 hour-long shows, 2 different people that I will be talking with that is recorded, but it has never been shown. I've not shown these people. That would be a surprise. I will announce when I'm going to do that, if I do it in 2 weeks. Next week, Greg Koss. We were supposed to do Greg Koss last week, but it's kind of hard to do a show with no internet. But I was talking a little bit about myself tonight since our guest, Phoenix Jansen, couldn't show up. She may have been traveling. I'm not sure. I have not been in contact with her for some time. She has not made a post on Facebook, so I'm imagining she has something very personal happen to her. I'm not sure. If you slide into this, please leave me a message and let me know what happened because we're all worried about you. Anyway, I will be appearing on the Pair Awakening show. Just look up Pair Awakening on YouTube. And the Rob show, he will be having a show Wednesday night here on YouTube and Facebook, like this show is on. And he will have his normal chat room goofballs, and of which I am one. And we'll be doing ghost box sessions and having some fun. Then it's Saturday. He may have a guest this coming Wednesday. He occasionally has a guest. It's coming Saturday night. What do you call 2 o'clock in the morning here? Now, he starts at midnight on the West Coast where he is. And, of course, here it's 2 a.m. in Central Time. He does a lot of ghost box sessions most of the night, especially for the West Coast. You dial in at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's what time it is. And it gets 5 o'clock at the end of the normal show if he runs a little overtime, because we're all having fun, and he's got one too many energy drinks in him. He may go over, and we get some good results. It's always interesting. So we've had interesting things happen on Saturday night, Sunday morning, with him doing a ghost box session and us having ghosts appear in the room with other people who are just in the chat room watching the show. So it's one of those things you could, just by watching the show, being a part of the investigation. I guess that's what was happening right there. I had an orb almost hit me in the nose, but that one had wings. Wonder what I'm doing here. For some freaky reason, my mic camera combo, this is on top of my laptop, seems to pick up a little bit of IR light. Maybe they did not put IR filter in that camera. Because any camera, if you don't put an IR filter and a UV filter, your photos or your video will pick up UV and IR light, and you will get a peak light, not natural light, as we see it. That's why they put an IR filter and they put a UV filter to block out that light. That's part of the spectrum, and give it and use only visible light, so everything looks at least color right as human or as the human eye see them. So For some reason, these bulbs I bought is UV bulbs. They are not UV bulbs. They are putting out seemingly an IR light. I have in the ceiling some UV bulbs, but are actually UV. And this room is quite dark by my eyes, except for the things around the room that operate in a UV light. And I'll show you. So for one, that's my internet up there. And you see here, and yes, everything is reacting a little bit to the UV lights on the ceiling. You go over here, some of the photos I've taken of people I've known, people I've interacted with, especially Arnold Classic, some two t-shirts and a hat when I worked at the Olympics in 96. That was the Atlanta Olympics, my hometown, Columbus, Georgia. I actually had the Olympic softball games. Since I helped get the games there, I actually worked there. With that darker shirt that shows up pink, it's actually very dark green. Over here, the bright shirt is a shirt I got in New Orleans back in 1980. Georgia played Notre Dame for the national title. Yes, I was there. Georgia won the national title this past season and won the national title this year, but it was actually, of course, last season for their only second time. I was there for the first time. And up here, we have other sports things and, of course, the curtains, a little bit of White Sox memorabilia. And, of course, we get to see bones. Here's your close-up bones. These are supposed to be UV lighting, and they're showing up as IR. So I'm thinking that this camera, which is supposed to be a standard camera, is picking up IR and UV light. As you can see, the UV is picking up there. And of course, that this is some of the shirts I've worn as a paranormal investigator. There's Chicago Paranormal Investigators, and that was a black shirt that I had. I actually wore it at the Camp Douglas investigation. And there is the lighter shirt I wore the next day. Chicago Paranormal Investigators. It's white with black. The other one is black with white, long sleeves, that I wore during the night. Because one thing you can learn real quick doing paranormal investigations: wear a hat. If you're in bright sunshine, wear a white hat. Hopefully one that's got holes in it. A mesh white hat so your heat can dissipate. And wear a white shirt. Wear like maybe some khaki pants. Don't dress in all black. That's really hot on it. Even an 80-degree day, that's kind of warm. And if it's 90 degrees, you'll be very miserable, let me tell you. So dress like you're a tourist. Just put on a pair of khaki shorts, a white shirt, and a white hat. Take some suntan oil or some sunblock. Then do your investigation outside. Even if you're inside, you don't have to worry about the sunblock. But if it's unless the place is air conditioning, you're going to be hot and you're going to be sweating. During the wintertime, yes, time to get those dark colored plants, usually blue jeans. Because let me tell you something about black pants, even heavy black pants, they look, when you put some IR light on them, they will turn kind of a pinkish. And if they're kind of thinner pants, you can, if you're wearing white underwear, guess what everyone sees? And guess what video picks up? That camera is picking up more of the underwear than it is the pants. So watch what pants you wear, and maybe watch out the color of underwear you have too. Because if you're wearing thinner pants, guess what everybody's looking at, especially with white underwear? That white underwear is glowing a nice, strong bluish purple, and your pants go into pink. Guess what? It sees right through there. So best wear a pair of heavy blue jeans during the winter, khaki shorts during the summer, and get you a black hat. Then you wear a black shirt in the wintertime. That'll help warm you up a little bit. If there's any other questions about how to get started, you need to contact Dale Kazmarek on his Facebook page or contact me. The biggest thing people say, what do I need first? Pencil, a pen, multiples of each. Remember, carry a pencil sharpener with you, one of those little handheld pencil sharpeners in case you break your points. Carry more than one pen in case one stops writing. Have you a legal pad? Have you a clipboard? You can buy these at Walmart or any place that sells office supplies, Office Depot, for just $1 or $2. Legal pads are not that expensive, and a clipboard's not that expensive. Watch. A lot of people have watches, or if you have your cell phone, use it as a clock, have it where you can see it, where they got your time. What you do with that, if you got a ghost box or somebody else has, you can write down the time when you hear something. And speaking of ghost box, if you are working a ghost box or nickel box off your phone or a pad like I do, every noise you make, say that was me, and time date it. If let's say that was me, and then you say this throat clearing me in nature time 11:20, or like right now this is 27:25, end of the second half of our show, so 27:25, whatever the time is, write it down. That's your first tools. You don't have to go expensive. You don't have to spend $2,000 on equipment. Have a flashlight. Have a backup flashlight. Have batteries for both flashlights. Hopefully you got both your flashlights carry the same batteries. And then you can start getting little odds and ends of paranormal equipment. Flashlights, I would recommend going to Lowe's, Home Depot, some of the construction places, and you can find headlamps, or you can go on Google, order them from Walmart. Headlights, instead of being pure white light, you go red and green, or you get a red and green flashlight that also goes white. The reason for this is the human eye. White light, of course, makes your pupils go really small. And when the white light's gone, you can't see your hand in front of your face, even if it's not that dark, because your pupils are closed. And if you're investigating at night, you want night vision. So use red or green light. Green light has no effect on the human eye pupil. So if your pupils are dilated because you've been in the dark for a while, green light will not close them. Red light will make the pupils open, but will not close them because it's got a longer band with them, with red light. That's why traffic lights are red and green. It's the human eye catches them. That's why the caution light is amber. It's the brightest of the group to know caution, either speed up or slow down. It depends on who you talk to. Some people say when they see yellow, you drive like hell. Others slam on the brakes. Your driving preference is just that, your driving preference. But that's why you got yellow, red, and green lights. The traffic light is the human eye. And you make that work in the paranormal. Don't carry yellow light unless it's an emergency. You only use white light when you're set up and you're tearing down. In between, keep the white light off. Use red and green lights. And like I said, with a headlamp, you can have a red and green flashlight. Put one red or both green, in one green or both green, which puts a little bit brighter light out there for over red. And you can see perfectly well. If you're in the death tunnel at certain asylums, you won't trip over a chair or whatever somebody's put in your path, it can save you a little bit of pain. And also, be careful of pure UV light in a museum, because you don't burn them don't keep the UV lights on fragile older cloth, because it will damage the cloth. And I wouldn't want to expose anybody to a long, hours and hours of UV light in your eyes either. That's not good. But it will damage clothes over time, because it's a UV light that tans you. It's very, very powerful UV lights. Hold it on your arm for 10 to 12 minutes, and you will have a tan spot on your arm. So you know that those rays are affecting older materials. So don't use that in a museum. You go strictly to the red light, or again the green light. Try not to use UV. IR, the eyes don't like it, but use that camera. It gives everything kind of a red, or like a lot of night vision cameras, green light. It's getting harder and harder to find true night vision cameras. Those are kind of getting rare. I happen to have one. Don't worry about getting one to start off with. Find somebody who knows how to ghost hunt, got some experience, join their group. Like Dale Kazmary. If you're in the Chicago area, join Dale's group. He'll show you how it's done right. Work with them for a few years. Don't go out and try to start a paranormal group and realize that you've never been on a ghost hunt before, or you've been on a ghost hunt twice, and people are looking at you to teach them how to do things. Join Dale's group or somebody else's group, and you're around you. Don't join one across the country. I'm not asking you to join me down here in Arkansas. Join a neighborhood group that will go investigate neighborhood things and show you how it's done. I want to know how to investigate. Get hold of a paranormal investigator in your area, and when they say we got a ghost hunt at this and that time, show up on time. If it costs money, bring your share. Also, bring in some lunch money. There may be pizza around. Maybe you may like Slim Jims. Go to a store and buy snackies like your 6-year-old unsupervised. That's my advice. If it's an all-night investigation, go into either a grocery store, a convenience store, whatever, and you've seen 6 and 7-year-olds without much supervision, with a little bit of money in their hand, just going crazy in the store. And just do that. Get your Slim Jims, get your peanuts, get your honey buns, whatever it is that turns you on, buy it. Buy several of them. Because trust me, about 3 o'clock in the morning, if your investigation starts at 10 o'clock at night, about 2, you're going to start getting hungry. About 3, you know you messed up. About 4, you're ready to eat your fingers. By 5, you may have already eaten your fingers. You're definitely biting your nails because you are hungry. So always take snackies, take something to drink, water and Gatorade, not mixing them, but you put a couple bottles of each, or maybe just bring a cooler with you with several variety of drinks and maybe an egg salad sandwich. Yes, I said sandwich. Bring that with you. All right, we are going to close it out. I don't see. I've ran around the room for an hour and a half now, plus 5, and I'm going to wrap it up for tonight's show. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you with Greg Coss next week. Sorry about the By Myself show. We'll reschedule our guest tonight, Phoenix Jansen. We'll hopefully have her back in a couple of weeks if she's available. And like I said, Greg Coss next week. He was supposed to be with me last week, but I didn't have internet. Apologize for that, but out of my hands. That's the internet person I subscribe to. It's the best internet I can get. Any other internet that I get where I live, here down here by the bayou, is limited and do one show, and all my bandwidth was used, and we're on dial-up speed. So I couldn't do but one show a month, and then I wouldn't have much internet left at all to do anything with. And, the wife uses the internet too. So we got the only company who offered unlimited internet, and they were a little bit faster than some of the satellite dish, and they're not so susceptible to cloudiness. So we're using them. Trouble is, it seems heat affects the system. It slows it down a little bit. During the rain, it slowed down a little bit. And it's a young system, less than a year old, still working the bugs out. And, of everybody selling it to everybody, they probably oversold it. But it's working out. It seems to get better every month. So they're making improvements. So, all right, hopefully the next week is the anomaly and I won't lose power again. But right now, it's time to go. Bones, take us home, my friend. Take us home.
Thanks for watching our show. Be sure to tune in to next week as once again we journey way down south into Bayou Country for another heaping portion of Southern Fried Paranormal with Len Dorman and Bones. Make sure to like, share, and follow. Y'all come back now. You hear?